All right, Doug, you went from spending years in prison to building a massive personal brand and successful business. A lot of entrepreneurs feel trapped too, not by prison, but by their business, even though they started as their ticket to freedom. But something happened along the way, and now they're in it, and it feels like some sort of a prison for them. They know they need a change. They know they're meant for more, but somehow they feel like they're trapped. Maybe it's the responsibility of the family. Maybe it's the fact that they've invested in that business for so long and so much that they just don't know how to create that, how to get that energy for a change like that.
Well, I think the best thing to do is to look at the relationship you have with yourself. And I know that this might seem overstated or it might seem Pollyanna, but I think if your relationship with yourself is poor and you've started a business or you've invested in a business where it requires you to put in a lot of time and effort, like that's going to be impacted, right? Because of your relationship with yourself. So I would first identify what's your routine like? What are your habits like? Are you taking care of your health and wellness? Are you taking care of your relationships? Are you taking care of what you need to as far as your mindset? And then I would like audit kind of how you're spending your day. And because, you'd be surprised at how much time we waste. I mean, I sometimes find myself scrolling on social media for like hours a day. Um, and it's like, man, like I wish I had that time back, right? I think when you put it on paper and you're like, hey, like I actually spend an hour a day like scrolling TikTok or Instagram or whatever social media platform people are using, you're like, oh, I could spend that hour meditating, working out, spending time with my family, working on the business or whatever. And the other thing is just accepting the and I think I'm guessing your question is more geared for people who have been consistently stuck, but I think that feeling trapped in your business, I think is normal sometimes. I think when you're on the grind and you're building something, it's going to feel like suffocating at times because of the uncertainty, because of the unpredictability. Cash flow maybe isn't as great as it could be, and it's going to kind of suck out your energy, which is why I talked about before this, like hedging against that with working on your relationship with yourself. Because if your relationship with yourself is poor, it's gonna automatically negative. It's gonna automatically, impact your energy, and you want to rule that out first. You want to say, okay, like how's my sleep, my stress, my relationships, my health and wellness. And if you're doing all that right and you're still poor energy, then it might be time to like look at like, all right, is this like really what I want to be doing like long term?
If you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't miss out on my free Burnout Free Business Guide. It's a simple 7-day plan to help you reset your relationship with your business, improve your mindset, and achieve more while staying balanced. You can download it right now by using the link in the description. I told you before, I had a business collapse during COVID. 3 years of work gone overnight. It was brutal. And I know you had some dark moments too. We're going to go a little deeper here. So, what helped you keep going when things felt hopeless? And what would you say to someone right now who's experiencing a major setback and feels lost, or the fear of it is paralyzing him and influencing his decision making?
I think me being able to survive something like jail built the framework for me to get through adversity. But I think with, use the pandemic as an example because it just impacted everybody, right? In a different way. I mean, they shut the gyms down. I lost most of my training business where I was very successful, like
Mhm.
essentially almost overnight. And I was faced with a lot of shame, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of negative thoughts going through my mind. And what helped me, and what I think can help people is at a time where you feel like you can't control things, you have to look at things objectively and focus on what you can control. And I bring it back to things like fitness and stuff because I think fitness is such a catalyst for a variety of things. Like if you're fit and you're feeling good about yourself, like I just think it naturally leads to more opportunities. And it also helps you channel some negative energy that might be going on into something that you can control. Like you can go to the gym and it gives you a sense of control. You can control how much weight you push on the bench. You can control, how many squats you do. You can control, you see where I'm going with this. And you end up potentially meeting other people that are on the journey with you. And that leads to opportunities. And it also just feels good to be around other people that are motivated to change themselves. I think the other thing too is you have to like look at um like where are some areas in your life that you could like reach for opportunities and who you could reach out to and connect with? Because I think people underestimate the power of their network and just asking for help when they're feeling hopeless or lost, because we feel like, again, failure if we're admitting that we don't know something. And so I think asking for help, reaching out to people that you know can be incredibly important. I also think that just some level of acceptance needs to be included in there as well, because people, when they're going through hard times, and especially somebody who's had success, like I've been fortunate to have, a decent amount of success in my life. And there's been times where I've felt like lost and hopeless. And I think part of that has been because of the fact that I had so much success. And I'm, referring to the time during the pandemic where I was like, man, like what do I do? But it was just a matter of like riding through those waves and not letting, a bad day turn into a bad month or a bad year or whatever. And 'cause I think that's where people get tripped up, is they end up having a bad few days, bad few weeks. They develop some sort of addiction, or they end up making decisions that are very impulsive, and it just wrecks the rest of their life, instead of like accepting that in life, there's going to be a bad month or two every year, potentially. Or there's going to be a bad week or a bad year or whatever. And it's like just riding that wave and paying attention to what you can control.
Oh, hey, you're here. Listen, if you're liking this video, please hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel more than you know. Enjoy watching the rest of the video. Yeah, you built a six-figure business in a field where people usually trade time for money. So the question is, what helped you break that cycle, and how can someone turn their expertise into income without becoming a slave to the business?
I don't think I ever scaled it to the point where I stopped trading time for money in the training business, because, I still see people on an hourly basis. I think with the podcast, I scaled that up to six figures as well. And I think that the way I've done that is, it's very like unorthodox. Like I didn't have like a perfect plan. I just grind. I'm a guy that just doesn't give up, and I just show up and stay consistent. I was working full time as a trainer, the podcasting on the side, and then the podcast grew. And then I was like, I'm going to put more energy into the podcast and less in training. And then if podcast is down, it's been this ebb and flow dance where there was never this perfect solution for that. Never had like a perfect morning routine or evening routine. I just kind of like just did what worked for me, which I know seems very like weird, but I think that's just, if you talk to, a lot of people who are successful, they kind of find what works for them. When it comes to not being like married to the business, it's hard when you're an entrepreneur, because a lot of times, not a lot of times, your livelihood depends on the success of your business. So you kind of have to, I don't want to say balance, because that word I think is kind of BS, but you have to have this dance, I should say, with working on the business and inside the business, with not being so attached to it. It deters you from other areas of your life, because, I would guess that most relationships don't fail if somebody like, loses a job or doesn't make as much money. I would bet more fail if the person is overworking and never around for them. I think you can be a great partner and not make a lot of money, or you can make a lot of money and be a really crappy partner, right? And so you have to look at like holistically what's more important. Money is important. You have to make money. Money does determine happiness to a certain extent. If you can't pay your bills, you're going to be a miserable person, right? If you can't, travel and do certain things, you're going to be pretty miserable. However, you get to a point where it's like, what's enough? And I think that's just an important thing to remember. That's why I kind of have come back to this, like, what do you want in your life? Do you want to be somebody who do you want to be like Elon Musk and be, one of the richest people in the world? Or do you want to be somebody who's like, does pretty good, lives a good life, has a great family, has great relationships, takes care of their health, and is able to have like that longevity? And Elon's a poor example because he has so much money. He can like do what he wants now, right? But people, I think, are trying to get to that point when they're overworking themselves in the business, or trying to become like ultra wealthy. And again, the flip side of that, which I've referenced, is you have to have some runway. Like you can't just not be making money in your business and then be like, oh, I'm gonna like just focus on my health 100%. So that's kind of my message, is that people, it's not being completely attached to the business, and just accepting that there's going to be ups and downs, and making time for myself, making time to spend with the people I love and care about the most, and then like just letting the chips fall where they may.
Oh, hey, If you've been watching so far, that tells me you're getting value from this video. So please write a comment, ask a question, and I'd love to support you further. What would you say if I tell you that the business is a mission, or their life's mission, and they just want to fulfill that mission and to have satisfaction making that change, making that impact? That feels very strong to a lot of people, wanting to get there, do that, not necessarily be rich like Elon Musk.
I mean, I think being mission driven is important, but it can't be everything. I think people will set themselves up to fail if they're letting the mission of their business determine their level of happiness. I think people's level of happiness should be determined by who you are as a person, how you treat other people. Like, do you show up for yourself and others? Like, how kind are you? How do you treat people that have less than you? Like, how do you show up for your family? And how do you present yourself at work? I think all that over time matters way more for happiness than like living out the mission of your business. Being mission driven is important. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because I'm somebody who's very mission driven. Some of the happiest moments in my life have involved not being mission driven. Like, me spending time with Erica is way more meaningful to me than like podcasting. You know what I mean? It's just like there's a different level of like meaning there than me recording. I love podcasting and it's my mission, but nothing will replace like the human connection, the relationship I have with her. And I just think that's an important thing that people need to kind of remember is like, success doesn't matter if you're alone, and you have no one to share it with. So you got to do your best to like blend the two. I know it's tough though. I mean, it's not, I wish I had like a silver bullet answer, but I just try to also speak like in reality of what I've learned over the years.
Have your extreme experience also taught you that, influenced the way you see things?
Maybe, but I also think, I think that I've, made a decent amount of money. I've made little money. And I think I've understood that when I didn't make any money, that I was very unhappy, and because of the way I saw myself, and also because I was like, man, I can't pay, it's hard to pay my bills right now. This kind of sucks. But then I realized but I've also been miserable and made a lot of money. So it's like, what's the common theme there? It's me. So that's why I think it comes down to like, you have to work on yourself and have a great relationship with yourself in order for this other stuff to kind of make more sense.